The shadow has passed, the storm has quieted, and in the space between peace and purpose, stories are born. Welcome to the Hall.
You ever been told a story of good versus evil, of triumph in the darkest times? A story so unbelievable it haunts your dreams. Every kid starts to picture themselves part of that journey, part of the legend. It's the funny thing about legends, though. You never feel like one when you're actually living it. Everyone grows up thinking their parents are heroes. Feels a bit different, though, when everyone you meet agrees with you. My father was a dragon knight. My mother, maybe the best fighter the Hall ever saw. Together, they fought on the black sands. Me? I ran away under a false name just to see if I could stand on my own. Growing up, I didn't know the shape of their stories. Didn't know the truth from tales. Just the edges, the scars, the silences. But these are the moments that shape them. Maybe, somehow, they shaped me. Shaped my dreams, even now.
The Isle of Black Sands had no birdsong. No wind, no green. It was a graveyard made of fire and silence. Glass crunched underfoot as Doran stepped across a ridge of shattered obsidian. The stone beneath his boot still pulsed with heat, as if the land hadn't finished dying. Kallon moved behind him, wings partially outstretched, claws clinking softly on the rock. Orissa walked point, her glaive resting loosely at her side, the blade blackened at the edge. Weeks had passed since the shadow incursion ended, but here the war still breathed. The stone remembers. This place was not meant to heal. You still feel it, don't you? Of course I do. The obsidian ridge narrowed. To their left, a crevasse glowed faintly, heat rising from a molten river far below. Ahead, the ruins of a Darak Ghoul encampment, stone outposts shaped like blades plunged into the earth. Orissa slowed and held up a hand. Defensive shape. No structure for sleep or recovery. They didn't rest here. They waited. And if any still linger, they'll be listening. Silence persisted for a moment. Then the obsidian cracked. An iron ghoul erupted from the glass, encased in wrought iron plate, tarnished but unbroken. A red crest, matted and soaked with dried blood, streamed from its helm like a war banner. Its two-handed greatsword gleamed as clean as death. 2 more followed, then another 5, not shambling, advancing. No words, no roars, only purpose. Engage! Kallon, give us some air support. Doran raised his hands, a burst of flame arcing outwards, but the ghouls split, with a trained precision and no fear. And then above, a scream rang out, jagged and wrong. The amalgam descended, all wings and claws and stretched sinewed flesh. It slammed into Kallon midair, dragging him to the ground. Stone shattered beneath him, wings buckled, and Kallon roared. Kallon! Lightning sparked wild in Doran's palms, uncontrolled and blinding. An iron ghoul closed in. Doran had not seen it. Doran! Left! Orissa cut in, one hand carrying her glaive that flashed through the air, carving through iron and bone, as her other moved to block the blade intended for Doran. Ah! Fuck! Doran, get your head in the game, now! Kallon stirred, scales blackened and bloodied, breath ragged. Above him, the amalgam circled for another dive. I failed. I wasn't strong enough, and I apologize. No need. We're not done yet. Doran stepped forwards, magic building, lightning trailing across his arms like veins of light. Kallon glanced over and took to the sky, understanding. It's coming for me. Good. Be ready. Oh, I am. The amalgam shrieked, descending again. Kallon twisted, one last turn in midair to pull it out into the open, and then Doran's hands rose. Lightning split the air, white-hot and furious. It struck the amalgam mid-dive, lighting its twisted frame like a bonfire. It fell with no other sound, only steam rising from its corpse. Even as it struck the ground, Doran's attention turned back to the rest of the ridge line, where he found it quiet once again. Orissa was standing near the edge of the cliff, her arm bleeding freely, and Kallon, bloodied, landed beside him. The dragon was cut up, his wings and the membranes that made them up bloodied, but he was alive. Next time, Doran. Don't hesitate, or none of us get to leave here. She's right. We weren't ready before. But now we are. Doran looked to the ash swirling in the still air. He didn't respond. He just stood there, hands humming with the leftover power, waiting for the next clash with the forces of the shadow. The desert below shimmered with heat. Doran sat steady in the saddle, his fingers resting on the warm scales beneath him. Kallon glided silently, wings stretched wide, steady, graceful, young. Their thoughts touched. Not words spoken aloud, but a current of understanding. That was the bond, the tether between rider and dragon. It flowed like wind through them both, constant and unshakable. You're quiet. Your thoughts, they are heavy again. Well, I have reason, I would argue. It's nearly time. For the child? The one you've named Ander? Well, he's not born yet, but yes. I keep wondering what kind of world we'll give him. What kind of man I'll be by the time he remembers me. You fought through shadow. You helped end the incursions, and you carry more than your age. He will remember strength. Yes, but I'd rather he remember peace. Kallon's wings stiffened. A ripple of unease across his back, and the bond tightened. There's something below. Fast, misdirected. It smells of blood and old metal. Doran shifted in the saddle. A line of wagons, a slow-moving caravan winding across the lower flats. And behind them, dust. Too much dust, and moving too fast. No banners or warnings. Desert raiders. All right, take us in. Kallon folded his wings, and the sky fell away. They plummeted, wind screaming past, the desert rising fast to meet them. Below, riders surged towards the wagons, steel flashing in the sun, arrows loosed in panic. Kallon opened his jaws, and flame tore across the sand like a blade. Doran stood in the saddle, cloak billowing, eyes alive with arcane light. He leapt, suspended mid-air by magics for a moment, and then dropped into the heart of chaos like a falling star. His impact cracked stone. A burst of force sent the front line scattering, sand curling into molten spirals around his boots. He raised his hand, and the desert answered, arcane light spinning into the remaining raiders. Leave or burn. The rest broke. Some ran, some didn't get the chance, on account of Kallon returning for a second pass. Smoke coiled into the sky, and somewhere in the distance, the oasis shimmered. Kallon landed beside him, wings half folded, sides heavy with breath. The bond between them pulsed gently, and Doran knew he was unhurt. We fought well. We always do. Come on, let's go home. The desert wind moved like a whisper. Not loud, not fierce, but constant. A gentle hush drawn over the world. Footsteps crunched softly across the sand. 2 sets. One sure and steady, the other smaller, light and curious. Above them, the sky spilled with stars. Doran walked with his son beside him. Ander, 10 years old, hood pulled too far down, cloak dragging just slightly in the dust. They'd been walking for nearly an hour now, heading back towards the ruins of Celeb Hall after a training patrol out by the cliffs. Kallon flew ahead somewhere, a distant shadow brushing the stars. "Is it always this quiet out here?" "Not always. Sometimes the wind howls. Sometimes the heat wakes you up in the middle of the night, and sometimes the sand stings your eyes, if you're unlucky." Ander looked up, clearly unsure if his father was joking or not. "But tonight, yeah, it's quiet. A good night for walking." Ander nodded. He was getting tired now, but didn't say anything, just drew a little closer to Doran's side. "Did you walk out here before?" "A few times. Back when this place was ruins, before we came back to rebuild it." Ander looked up, blinking. "You were gone a long time," he might have said, but didn't. "Did you miss it?" "Every day." The wind carried that answer for a while. Doran didn't speak again immediately. They crested a low ridge and continued along the blackened stone path, half covered by sand and worn with time. "Were you scared when you came back?" "Yeah." "But you're brave." "Bravery doesn't mean you're not scared. It just means you walk the path anyway." Ander picked up a piece of fireglass from the sand, twisted and sharp-edged. He turned it in his hands, and then tucked it into the sash at his waist. "I'm going to fight too, someday." "You don't have to." "But I want to." They walked on. Above them, Kallon passed again, silent wings brushing the air. Ander's steps slowed. His legs were shorter, his stride tired. He stumbled a little in the soft sand. Doran didn't say anything. He reached out and hoisted the boy effortlessly up onto his side. "You're heavier than you look." "You always say that." Far ahead now, across the folds of the darkened dunes, the faint golden light of Celeb Hall shimmered against the night. Its towers had not yet fully rebuilt. Its walls were still scorched and partially melted. But it was home once again, built by calloused hands and stubborn hope. The wind curled around them, soft as breath. Father and son, one carrying the other, both carried by the desert. No words left between them, only stars, and the silence of a road walked together. The grand arena of Celeb Hall was quiet at this hour. The sun streamed in at an angle, catching the fine grit that floated through the air. Desert dust settled over old stone. Doran sat halfway up the bleachers, arms folded over his chest, cloak tucked around his shoulder, and beside him, Kallon lay curled in stillness. Not sleeping, but resting. A single amber eye, half-lidded, tracking the movements below. "He's going to lose. Again." "He always does. That's not the point." Ander was moving through forms now. Glaive in hand, boots planted with intent, sweat already darkening the collar of his tunic. He was 17, nearly grown, with his mother's posture and his father's scowl. Arissa circled him like a storm held in check. Her own glaive rested across her back. She moved with that effortless stillness, earned only by repetition, discipline, and years of experience. She's holding back. Still, he fights as if it matters.
Because it does to him.
A whistle, and then Ander lunged. Orissa didn't even draw her weapon. She pivoted, let his blade slide past her, and knocked him off balance with a shoulder that hit harder than steel. His movements echo hers, but his stance, that's yours. He steps like a sorcerer pretending not to be.
He wants to be both. He'll find the balance eventually.
Ander rolled, sprang back up. He looked angry, but not reckless. He was focused, and his next attack was smarter. His steps were tighter, and his blade swung in a controlled arc. Orissa blocked it cleanly, this time forced to bring her own glaive into play. Steel rang against steel, and the rhythm of their trial truly began. Below them, son and mother moved in circles. Strike, parry, sweep, recover, and then, inevitably, Orissa turned her glaive low and swept Ander's legs out from beneath him. Again. He hit the stone hard, let out a grunt, and stayed down, longer this time than any of those before. He does not rise.
He will.
Orissa waited. She offered no hand, no lecture, just space. After a moment, Ander sat up, wiped blood from his mouth, and stood. He didn't bow. He reset his stance. With the faintest nod, Orissa returned to hers. He'll never match her strength, but he may surpass her in other ways. I can see it. Do you?
Every day.
The clack of glaives began again. Doran leaned back into the sun-warmed stone and let the rhythm carry him into a well-deserved afternoon nap. The sun dipped below the dunes. From this height, the desert glowed like smouldering coals, vast, still, and golden. Doran sat in the saddle, cloak drawn closed, the wind tugging at its edges. Beneath him, Kallon glided, wide-winged and steady, following the thermals high above Celeb Hall. They flew without urgency, without need, just the sky and the fading light. He didn't close the door behind him.
I didn't ask him to.
But you left it unlocked.
He wanted to go his own way. Not as my son, not as a dragon knight, just himself.
And you are content with that?
I am. Mostly.
They soared in silence for a time, before the glimmer of the great oasis faded into shadow. Celeb Hall caught the last of the sunlight below them, glimmering like an ember in the middle of the desert. You could have gone with him, you know. Back to the hall. The world still needs blades as sharp as you and I.
No, the hall has plenty of heroes. What it needs are a few less ghosts. I've done enough walking into places I wasn't sure I would walk out of. It was time to start guarding something, instead of chasing it.
You came back to where it began.
To rebuild the ruins. Even if all I manage is to sweep some floors and lift a few bricks. It turns out rebuilding is harder than destroying.
The wind shifted slightly. Kallon dipped a wing and banked, slowly turning eastwards.
You do think he'll come back, though, don't you?
I think he'll write his own story, and when he's ready, he'll want someone to hear it. And you'll be here.
I hope so.
Well, none of it'll matter, I suppose, when Orissa finds out what you did.
Yes, she's probably going to kill me.
She's going to kill us both. You let him go. I let you do it.
Between them, They shared a laugh in their mind. Not loud, but the kind of laughter that only comes after surviving too much together. Even high in the sky, the shadow of Arissa's disapproval loomed large, larger than any mountain. "You know, you're quieter now than when we met." "Yeah, well, war makes you loud. Peace teaches you to listen." The stars were rising now, one by one, the last breath of sunlight dipping beneath the world. They flew on, side by side, towards that deepening sky, and towards whatever came next.